Good evening and welcome to the Port of Cascade Locks Commission meeting 2.0. December 3rd, 2024, about 6 p.m. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
President Lorraine.
Here.
Vice President Clute. Here. Commissioner Nats.
Here.
Commissioner Peterson.
Here.
Commissioner Dodd.
Here. Modifications, additions, and changes to the agenda, sir.
Not tonight?
None. Perfect. All right. Special presentations, reports by outside resources, staff, and government officials. Cascade Trail Project, Chris Bernhardt, C2 Recreation.
Thank you, President Lorang. I'm really grateful and proud to probably reintroduce you to Chris Bernhardt, C2 Recreation. Chris worked as the project manager for the pro build side of our new trail project. And he did a fabulous job, made sure that our contractor, Ptarmigan Trails, delivered their project on time and under budget, and it's a fabulous trail. Chris is here to give you just a real quick wrap-up report on that project, which was funded by a grant from the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department's Recreational Trails Program. The U.S. Forest Service had a 50-50 cost share with the port for Chris's contract. And then, of course, the port provided cash match for the grant. So Chris, take it away. And Carrie Ann is your clicker, I think, today. So she'll let you know. You could just say next slide and she could click you through, or she's got it there for you.
You say slide.
Yeah, exactly. She'll get it going. So as you'll all probably remember, this trail was connecting to a trail that was constructed by all volunteer labor by Northwest Trail Alliance. Andy Jansky, Commissioner Dodd, of course, were really important parts of the volunteer side of the trail, but we had some rocky, rugged terrain on a section. We wanted to also have the trail complete. It really needed a pro team to work on it. So Chris is here to report on that work.
Commissioners, thank you very much for having me. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all. Quite a pleasure. I have been working with the Port of Cascade Locks on this project since 2008. With the director back then, approached the port about potentially developing some projects. This is a photo of me on the site from 2009. So I lost the butt chops and the rest of my hair in that time. But very excited to talk about in 2021, Port of Cascade Locks in partnership with Northwest Trail Alliance and the Columbia River Gorge National Scenic Area, applied for and received a grant from Oregon Parks and Rec Department to build the first phase of the Cascade Locks mountain bike trail system. So we can see here Wyeth Road, the orange was the proposed trails now built. Blue is existing, and then you can see easy climb on the port lands there against the river. As noted, NWTA provided an in-kind match, built over 3 miles of trail in very difficult terrain, really pushed the limits of the volunteers. Really incredible work by volunteers. It's amazing resources, and really I hope that showed the commitment of that group to the port, given all that the port has invested in the project, their time, their funds, their land. And using the grant fund, sorry.
There you go.
Using the grant funds, the port did hire a contractor to build another 3.3 miles, and so that was on the south side of Wyeth Road, and turned out quite lovely. Very high quality trail, destination quality trail. Genevieve and the port provided a lot of the administrative support for this project. There's a lot of paperwork that goes along with free money, and that was a very critical part of that. I think without the port being the applicant for that grant, it would have been much harder to secure it and process it. I was retained as a consultant to assist the port in the implementation, the technical implementation of the trail contract, the inspection, that type of thing. So there's a quick breakdown. Again, most of it went to the trail contractor, but that makes sense. They have a lot of liability with the work they were doing. There was some very difficult terrain and working within the confines of fire season, habitat, protected habitat for species. And lots of folks just kind of wander around the woods, want to see what they're doing. Signs from the scenic area, and then the match from the port and from the scenic area, and as well from NWTA. So the result is, without a doubt, a destination quality mountain bike trail. This is the first phase. This is the first almost 7 miles. NWTA actually went above and beyond in their match, and I think this will be a very, very important part of this community in many ways, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So what is next? Scenic Area has applied for a grant to develop the trailhead, the restrooms, and the kiosks off of Wyeth Road, and that is much needed because this is going to be a very, very popular trail system. People are gonna need a place to park and use the restroom. And I will say that we did design this trail specifically to make sure that people from the metro area, who are gonna provide the majority of visitors, come through Cascade Locks. We didn't want it in the west end of Cascade Locks where people would come, go there, and then leave. We want them to come into Cascade Locks so that this community can take advantage of it. Expansion East, Northwest Trail Alliance has taken upon themselves to begin building up the connection to Wyeth Campground. To be very exciting and a great opportunity, particularly for families. This is the best, closest family riding area to the Portland metro area, and the only one, and the one this close west of the gorge. So that's pretty important. You're going to see a lot of folks, a lot of families, a lot of kids coming out to ride these trails. And then looking for future grants to expand west with the project. That would be to bring the trails actually into downtown Cascade Locks, and that will take several rounds of funding in the future. And again, hopefully looking to the Port of Cascade Locks being the lead applicant on those funds. A lot of tourism funding available, a lot of recreation funding available as well.
Sorry, can you go
Sorry, we're trying.
So really, I want to thank the port on behalf of cyclists and on behalf of the tourism community. Cascade Locks is now sitting on, I think, the proverbial gold mine, not a little gold mine, but the proverbial gold mine of tourism income. And so the main question is, how will the community moving forward be led by the port to maximize the financial rewards of the investment that you have all made so far? And you have made a not insignificant investment in your time and your funding over the past 2 decades. So this is data from Travel Oregon, who's the state's economic or tourism promoting agency. And this lists the outdoor recreation activities and the economic value they bring to the state. And the highlight there is that cycling in all its forms brings in $1.5 billion a year, which is more than all those other activities combined. So cycling is very important to Oregon's tourism economy. It is a safe bet to invest in cycling. And it is even more impressive that Cascade Locks has not only existing and more trails coming, but also have the scenic bike trail. And that is a huge driver of economic growth as well. So nicely done. Oops. We're not going to read these numbers, don't worry. This is just an example of the economic analysis forecasting that I do for a lot of projects. We know very well how much visitation existing trail systems near the Portland metropolitan area get. We know from Travel Oregon how much money the average tourist spends, either as a day visitor or an overnight visitor. And we can take that information and we can look at future or proposed trail systems and do some calculations. So this, of course, is the bottom line and also the right hand column. This is for a different project. This is for a project out by Salem, west of Salem, near the Grand Ronde, so Highway 22/18 junction area. There's a very busy corridor and it sees a lot of traffic. And in the future, this project is estimated to generate between 11 and $14 million a year over year in revenue for tourism. And I think that this trail system will not be as popular as the Cascade Locks trail system because of your location along the I-84 corridor, second most traveled interstate in the state. And you have a lot of visitors already coming to the gorge. You have a lot of visitors who want to come to the gorge. And so this would be a significant positive economic impact if managed correctly. So how do we convert visitors into money when those visitors are cyclists? Because in many cases, cycling on the trail, cycling on the scenic trail, that's free. You don't charge for that. There may be a trailhead fee, but that's fairly nominal. That usually goes to the land manager. So there are many ways to do that. And the port to date has done an amazing job of investing in this infrastructure for cyclists and for hikers. However, one of the ways now that we can get that money from those visitors into this community. So I work a lot with consultants in Europe and particularly in the Alps, and they've developed this methodology that I find very helpful in explaining how we can monetize the outdoor recreation that is coming. So there are 4 components. And the first is trails and routes. This is the most important component. Luckily, thanks to all the work you've done over the past 2 decades, we are on our way. We have existing great routes. We have more great routes and trails coming. And that's great because this is the most costly part to develop. So you're getting that out of the way. We're in a very good spot right now. Services then are, the next thing that make up this component of the economy for outdoor recreation. And of those, lodging is the most important one. So this is typically the greatest expense for a visitor, for an overnight visitor. I know I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I'm just reinforcing that. And also because of the transient lodging tax that can be levied against them. It occurs certainly at the state. I believe Hood River County has a TLT, is that? Yeah, okay, great. So great, making money, nice. Okay, great. Let's bring that money back into the community, reinvest it in that community. What do cyclists want out of lodging? To some extent, what all visitors want from lodging, a variety of options. They want everything from family-friendly configurations, rentals that can accommodate the annual summer vacation, romantic getaway cabins, van camping sites, these types of things. So a wide range of lodging for cyclists. There are some amenities, particularly that can be developed by lodging providers to draw outdoor recreation visitors. It's not only just cyclists, but hikers, kayakers, paddlers, that type of thing as well. Laundry rooms, secure storage, a wash station, repair stands. These are all fairly low cost amenities that can be provided by lodging purveyors to really set them apart and draw visitors to their lodging. Bike shops are frequently the center of action for mountain bike tourists. Folks want to come on top off their supplies, get the latest information on trail conditions, get to know the scene. So we have in Oregon actually a little twist to this as well. We get a lot of visitors from out of state who want to ride different bikes, sample them, and then buy them here. Because there's no sales tax. So that is a not infrequent activity. So having that bike shop really brings that money in even more so than a local bike shop would back in their hometown. Oops.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Uh,
I had to click out to put someone in.
There we go, thank you. So food and beverage, clearly, cyclists, they want quantity and quality. A lot of times this is an all-day calorie burning endeavor, so they want to really make sure they get their fill. But typically when visiting Oregon, folks do not gravitate towards chain restaurants. Oregon is very well known for culinary, as a culinary destination. Potentially even more so, I've been informed, than as a recreation destination. So riders want to engage with the local scene, with the community when they're eating. They really want to seek out brew pubs, cafes, local restaurants, that type of thing. And they also want to see other riders when they are out. The third component is generally called transport, and for Cascade Locks, it's typically include guide and shuttle services. You're already very all familiar with shuttle services down through the gorge, things such as more bike racks to provide that. Guide services are a great way for small businesses in the community to develop, and guides also really help folks not only have a good time, but have the least impact as possible on the landscape. And then the last component is this outdoor recreation culture, the secret sauce that sets some destinations apart from others in terms of outdoor recreation. We use terms such as the scene or the buzz or the vibe. Outdoor recreationists, like other visitors, want to feel welcome into your community, right? They want to see that the community has done things for them, rolled out the carpet. These can be intangible, such as a welcoming attitude toward guests. It can be such things as bike racks, bike lanes, which you already have, so that's great. And so I think Cascade Locks is already well on its way to this one as well. So there's the upshot. You add all those things together, and then you end up with money in the end. And that is the conclusion of my very brief presentation, and I would like to answer any questions anybody might have.
Thanks, Chris.
I'd like to say thank you very much again for all the volunteer hours you put out there. Do you have a rough number of how many hours have been put in?
Yeah, how many volunteer hours were there? 2,700?
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I remember going to Ashland, Oregon, from California back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And it was known for like the Globe Theater, Shakespeare type stuff, and they had a college campus. But then another 10 years later, I visited, it became a mountain bike town.
Absolutely.
And you saw this whole economy and just bike shops popping up and just signage telling people where to go. So
Yeah,
I really see that happening here. So
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've got a couple questions for you real quick. So in looking at Cascade Locks, first of all, understanding your experience of working with other communities to build mountain biking, not only understanding, the trail systems, the topography, what they have to work with as it relates to trails, with that is one component of it. But the other component is looking at the city that exists, town, its services, the community. How does Cascade Locks rank on both those levels? And then kind of a follow-up, what things are we missing that we should be working on as a town to prepare to have that list that you said, shuttles, rides, lodging, food, pubs, all that cool stuff?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. And I think, I would say from kind of the trails and, the main point of visitors would be the trails, very high quality, this amazing visual amenity, and this amazing resource. It's a great place to come in summer because it's north facing, and so that beats out a lot of other places in Oregon that get hotter sooner. So the trail system we've designed checks many of the boxes to be a destination for cycling and outdoor recreation in general. I think the second half of that question about what the city can do to prepare is, I think you all are in a very good place to ask that question because you haven't been, run over by the freight train of visitation yet. Certainly you all feel that in the past decade, but there could be a lot more people coming. And so now I think is the time to really start asking those questions. And, I won't try to ignore that increased visitation can have negative effects on a community, increased housing costs, congestion with traffic, parking problems. But you're all in a very good place to begin to address the positive aspects so you can maximize the income from that, as well as plan to moderate to the extent possible a lot of the negative impacts. So I would say The things that I think are most important for Cascade Locks right now, are lodging in the future, providing more of a variety of lodging. And we heard that actually from our contractors when they were working here this summer. They had a hard time finding lodging for a long term that they could afford, based on what they were expecting, and then, I do think, food and retail geared a little more towards cycling when those visitors start to come, and I think that's a great opportunity. I think that's a great opportunity for small business development. We do typically see that it frequently is a business in an adjacent community that's expanding into this community. And with that, bike rentals, I think, is a big one. Yeah, because that allows, we see a lot of families coming through. They're coming to Oregon for 2 weeks. They want to sample a bunch of different things. They want to go down to Crater Lake and hike. They want to go out to the coast and go fishing or, clamming. They want to come mountain biking in Cascade Locks, but they're not going to drag 6 mountain bikes with them for the entire 2-week trip. So having rentals is a great way to get them outside and then also earn money from them. Yeah.
Have you had any experience reaching out to transportation authorities? Like, for example, out here is Columbia Area Transit Campus. Have you seen or been in talks with them about having more mountain bike racks on their buses and stuff?
We did have reached out to them when Easy Climb was expanding. We talked with them about bringing a bus to the turnaround there. And they were amenable for sure. We have not had specific conversations otherwise with them. I think we're getting to the point where that might be necessary. We may have been a little early before this. But once we have that trailhead on Wyeth Road, then they'll have a turnaround spot where they can come in and safely deposit and pick up people. But I think that is a really good point, and I also know that there's money for that available to help them develop those services, both from transportation agencies and also from tourism agencies who are looking to reduce impacts.
There could be some of the sports shops in the Portland area that specialize in adventure biking, that sort of thing, might be, induced into, knowing what we have and creating a tour out here where they're, bringing a bus.
Absolutely, yes.
Partner with like Next Adventure or some of those.
Absolutely, yeah. So that is actually a good point. So not only do you get the public transportation, but you get private guide services providing transportation, providing a full suite of bringing folks out on in a van with a trailer so they don't have to drive, not clogging up the trailhead, guide them, take them back to town to the brew pub afterwards, and then, bring them on home. I think there are huge opportunities for that.
There's also, as far as the culture, in Hood River, Post Canyon has an excellent biking culture up there. Dirty Fingers is one of those kind of community spaces that, it's got the social side, it's got the repair shop, it's got it all there. So like, I would like to see something like that happen in here, but in your experience with those kind of groups, have other like nice to haves that these groups are looking for right now?
I think that would be it. So very typically, cyclists coming in the morning or waking up and getting started, they're going to want a breakfast that is, high carbohydrate, pretty easy to consume on a short time schedule. They don't want to wait an hour and a half to get breakfast, right? We gotta get it moving. Lunch is typically on the trail, so they're going to want to go to the bike shop and get some snacks to take along the way. And then at the end of the day, it's protein and beer, right? So the brew pub's got that pretty well covered. The beginning of that, I don't know as much about whether Cascade Locks has those opportunities for that kind of, quick, healthy, hearty breakfast, food to go in the pack type of situation or not. And if not, then that is an opportunity.
That is something that's in the works right now. There's a new nonprofit downtown association called Main Street Cascade Locks.
Okay, great.
And one of their missions is to connect the business owners together and align with the tourism, align with local governments, to get that knowledge out there for tourism as well.
Great, yeah. And I would say as well, to answer your question, I'm not in a great position to answer these questions, but these are the types of questions that absolutely can be answered in kind of a more thoughtful process of saying, hey, we know these people are coming. They're going to be bringing a bunch of money. What's our strategy? right? And I don't think you need to do that work alone. There's a lot of funding out there to help communities figure that out proactively. And that might be a good project for the next 2 years, frankly, just kind of put that.
We're in a good place with our east side as we're looking at coming up with specific plans for our east side development. Things to consider, you know, as far as bike rentals, other types of recreational amenities, that sort of thing. Especially since the trailhead is on currently on the east side of town, but also, you know, in the downtown redevelopment. How do we encourage some of our hotel owners who are wanting to do more with their hotels to make them bike friendly and attract that bike tourism?
Chris, real quick before we wrap up, I was hoping that you could also talk a little bit about well, mountain biking generally, but mountain bike on the Cascade Locks Trail Network itself. Can you talk about the seasonality of it? Coming from the Hood River, mountain in the wintertime, windsurfing in the summertime. I think it's important for us to understand what the season is for mountain biking, really, for our trail specifically at the elevation that they're at with the soils that we have.
Thank you. Yeah, and that is absolutely, I believe that Cascade Locks will have a longer mountain bike season than many places in the state, certainly east of the Cascades, more so than places east of the Cascades. We are, of course, right in the Cascades, I get that, but we are low elevation. As you know, Commissioner Dodd has noted, it does rain here a lot, but the soil in this area, it has a lot of basalt in it, like chunks of basalt, which makes it very rocky, and it drains very well. I've spent decades running the PCT south of here. All sorts of weather, it holds up shockingly well. So you do get a much longer season as well. In the summertime, places like Bend, Hood River, they get blown out to dust. You know, they've got a lot of pumice in the soil, a lot of ash from the eruptions. And Cascade Locks has much better soil in the summertime as well. Being again on that north facing, a lot of large timber, a lot more shaded. Is just much more desirable, absolutely. And so you will have probably a 12-month season.
Wow.
I'd say at least 12 months for the hardcore riders.
Okay.
You know, a good 10 and 8 for families, 8 months for families. Yeah. And being so close, you know, if you get in these soil conditions, if you get 2 good days, then the 3rd day you can ride and you can come out and ride.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would like to comment on your point as well. I designed the trail system originally. That was part of the work we did in 2008, 2009. And I did a bad job of not conceiving how popular Cascade Locks would be at now. Of course, I didn't think it was going to take this long to build, but that's not on your fault. That's not your fault. And so it was really critical for me to put that connection into downtown. And I still think that is important, but I do now see a much greater potential to develop in your Portlands on the east side, more of a hub, especially if that reduces impacts on parking and trailhead congestion on the west side. So I think, and then to that point, knowing the things that cyclists and visiting recreationists want, is your zoning appropriate over there?
Right.
Are you ready to handle that? Right. These are questions that you are all best suited to address. Right. So, yeah, I think there's a really good opportunity to make some amazing multi-generational bike friendly hub there close to the trailhead. And another nice thing about that is if you were to park on Portlands and have to hike in to Hermit Creek Trails, that's a long hike. Yeah. But to ride there on a bike, 5 minutes. Yeah. Easy. And to be able to ride back at the end to the brew pub, whoa, like people like the sooner you can get them from off their bike into the restaurant, they're just spending more money. Yeah. Right. And so that is a huge opportunity.
Right.
About e-bikes and regulations on the trail, like I've heard there's like class 1, class 2, class 3. Can you kind of summarize that, like how that works?
Yes, absolutely. So those classifications are based on the power that they output, so size of the motor, and whether they need human assistance to do that. So class 1 is a lower power, it's a lower top speed. You have to pedal to make it work. The class 2 is a throttle. Class 3 is pedal, but it's the higher speed, typically for commuting or something like that. The new trails that are being built, those are not open to mountain bikes, electric mountain bikes, excuse me. I believe Easy Climb is that true? Correct.
So
Yeah,
no,
so,
you couldn't go in with the class 1 bike.
no,
Okay,
this one.
great, thank you.
Well, thank you again, all very much. I really appreciate it. And
Thanks,
thank you for
Chris.
your effort in making this an amazing opportunity.
Thank you for that great presentation.
Yes.
Thanks, Chris.
Hopefully you know what you-
It's exciting. Thanks, Chris.
Probably a pretty well-known fact by most of you, but Thunder Island Brew Pub is they started with a student study on a trail plan for economic development, won awards, and it was talking about that exact thing, is what is needed. They did a big assessment, even what do people want, and at the end of that, a couple of them who had been brewing in their dorm rooms decided to start Thunder Island Brewing. So that was kind of the impetus for the whole, the beginning of all of our breweries and kind of what's happening in Cascade Lodge now. So it's taken a while to come to fruition. So, it's been, well, about the time you started is when Dave Lips and the others began working on that. So, yeah, kind of come full circle now.
Forward progress, yeah.
Starting to see the fruition.
Yeah.
So
Great.
anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next, Jenny Light update. Jim,
So everybody knows Jim. It's our president of Jetty Light LLC, operator of the Stern Wheeler. We when we originally had scheduled this him to present today, it was sort of in a conceit. We kind of conceded that this was going to be an update on the end of the season, as well as sort of discussions on how the Stern Wheeler was going to weather here in Cascade Locks, and both begrudgingly so and somewhat defeated, understanding that's what this presentation was going to be, with this small ray of hope that he was going to find something here at the end. And he's been in town for a couple of days now, working very diligently. So although we don't have an end of season summary, we have a much better update to give. End of season summary will come sometime in January when we see what the rest of the season has held for us.
appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Good evening. We also introduce
Just take a moment to
to operations manager.
Captain Steve Caputo. Steve has been hired to take the reins that Caden Pond has held in his firm grip for the past couple days or a couple of years, and take us forward for the next phase of our growth here in Cascade Locks. Steve, do you want to introduce yourself to the commission?
Thanks for having us. Steve Caputo. I come out of the the last almost 20 years, domestic inspected vessels. So exactly this equipment, different needs or different uses, mostly transportation, commuting, high-speed craft, same body counts though, same amount of people on board. So I'm intimately familiar with all the regulatory compliance. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Plus, I've never operated in such a cool area. It's usually all industrial and cranes and stuff like that, and that's not this.
Well, good for last.
Yeah, this is pretty cool stuff. You guys are awesome. Well done.
Thanks.
We'll take a seat.
You want me to sit up here?
Yeah, please, yeah. So, as Jeremiah mentioned, I was planning to be in the area to welcome Steve in person and do a little bit of the transition for our operation. And I figured I'd combine that with a family trip. My daughter lives in Fairbanks, Alaska, and we were going to spend Thanksgiving with her and her husband. I thought that would really, season my Texan blood to be ready to come to Cascade Locks. And I can tell you, it just feels colder here than it did in Fairbanks.
Probably the same air.
The wind is crazy this last few
The
days.
wind has been just
Here too. Drier in Alaska.
it's very dry. The air was crisp and calm, very cold, but they don't have a Colombian gorge like we do here. So thank you again for giving me the chance to do what we do with the stern wheeler. It really is a point of pride for us and an opportunity that we think about and we're mindful of every day. It was a little bit of a surprise when I heard in late October that Hayden was looking to move to the next operation. I know all of you know Hayden very well. He is a beloved individual in the town, in the company. It was going to be a tough thing for us to replace him, and it just so happened that we also still have that relationship with HMS. So when I found out that Hayden was leaving, I called my friend Matt, who was instrumental in helping us to get our way in here. And Matt said, I think I have a guy. And so shortly thereafter, I got Steve's resume and I said, this is exactly what I think we need for the next step. Hayden did an amazing job of getting us started. He's just such a good problem solver. There's so many things that he can do. He loves what he does. He loves this town. He intends to stay here as he transitions to go to his next opportunity. But looking at Steve's resume, Steve has been a general manager of a inspected marine facility for like the past 30 years or so.
Pretty close.
So and I know when I spoke with Jeremiah when we lost our chief engineer this past summer, that was a major risk for us, and we thought to ourselves, we really need to manage that risk. And so bringing Steve in allows us to do a little bit of both of those. Bring a guy who's got general management, leadership experience, tons of experience dealing with Coast Guard, dealing with mariners, inspected vessels, but also give us that sense of when he looks at something on a vessel, he knows what he's looking at, and he knows if it looks right or wrong. And that's something that I think we've had a little bit of a gap there. And I'm optimistic that we close that gap to a certain extent. Steve has moved to the area. He has an apartment here in town, originally from Gig Harbor, Washington. So he'll do a little bit of commuting back and forth, but he will be very present in the community. He'll be here, accessible to the citizens of Cascade Locks as they have questions. We love for them to approach us and, hey, ask your questions, give us your good ideas, and things like that. We can turn around and we can implement really quickly. And as I think everyone knows, when that stuff sort of comes back and gets you email or social media, it's harder for us to really act on that in a positive way. So, we want to continue to have that community engagement. We want to continue to take care of the vessel. We want to grow the operation. And when we started, we knew that this was going to be about a 3-year cycle to really get up on a plane. And we're ready to go into year 3. We've had some really good news with getting the boat out of the gorge for the winter. We started on that, and believe it or not, in late August, and it took us until about the 3rd week of right before Thanksgiving, before I was really sure we had to deal with the Port of Vancouver. And we do. We brought the boat down Monday. Very safe operation. We had 2 captains in the wheelhouse. We had a really good team. We had George down on deck in the engine room, and I rode along as well. And it was a great, safe trip with a lot of wind blowing us all the way down there. And since then, Steve's been down to Vancouver, met us down there. We did a lot of work with the shipyard, make sure that the vessel was going to be maintained safely and securely, get all the resources and the support we need. And then tomorrow we shipped over to the Port of Vancouver to just test the fit, make sure that we can do all the operations we need to do. Then we're going to do a dry run for what we hope will be a really productive and fun set of operations out of the Port of Vancouver. And I wanted to mention that to the Port Commission as well, that if you're in the area, if you can get yourself down to Port of Vancouver Terminal 1, we'd love to bring you on board and take you along for that ride.
What are the months you plan to operate up there again?
So right now, as far as operations, we have just the month of December. We are planning to be outside the board, so in Vancouver, probably until either late February or into March. We really want to give ourselves the benefit of the weather window to, for that winter weather to close before we come back. But I'd like to be back so that we can start operating in late March here in Cascade Locks, and then give ourselves a nice run to get into the spring and summer.
I have talked with probably the majority of the people that work on Sternwiller, and every single one of them say, you're a boat guy. So that's good stuff.
Okay.
I will say one of the things that I think that really endeared Caden to the community was actually being involved with the community, coming out, meeting folks, coming out to events, talking with a lot of folks. So if I had any advice for you, would be to make sure that you are integrated with the community. The community here, I think everyone here can attest, is very close knit. And sometimes for better or for worse, much like a family. And sometimes, it's very much like that. So I would definitely give you that advice to make sure that you are visible, that you are at events, and that you get to meet people and shake hands, because the community is very important to everybody here.
Yeah, understood. I actually look forward to engaging as much as possible, as much as I can bear, as much as I can afford to spend away from the boat. I've actually been invited to a couple events coming up soon, so I look forward to that. And yeah, I consider myself a people person, so but I can talk boats more than I can talk about just about maybe dogs.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, obviously, Caden wore a ton of hats.
Yeah.
Can you explain, or at least chat with everyone else about how that will kind of, I guess, present
sure.
itself through any other updates?
Yes, sir. So as you know, Caden did just a tremendous amount of things. It was, for us, it was the daunting challenge was finding someone who was available and would drop everything on a moment's notice to drive out to Cascade Locks. And I rolled the dice. I knew Caden's father, were very good friends from college. I knew he had graduated from Maritime Academy, was still looking for work, and I figured I'd take a shot. So I called out. I left him a message. He didn't respond. So I called his mom. I said, hey, can I have a conversation with Caden about taking some work? And she's like, yeah, I'll get him to call you. And he did. We didn't even have the contract at that point, but he's just that type of guy. He got his car and drove out here. And since then, pretty much every challenge that we've encountered, Caden's figured out a way to get over or around that challenge. And so in the course of doing that, it was a little bit of a dual-edged sword, honestly, is he was so capable at solving whatever problem was brought to him that he sort of fed on itself. But what I wanted for him was to have the opportunity to turn him more into a mariner, to take that Maritime Academy background that he had and get him on deck and learning the boat and become a master. Because I think it's important that our general manager for the Sternwheeler have that Coast Guard credential to operate as a master. And it was always our intention to invest in Caden to bring him to that level. And I think, he started to do some soul searching and decide, I'm a young guy and there's other things I want to do. I'm not so sure I want to be a captain of a vessel. And I think that may have played into his decision making. But at the end of the day, when we had the opportunity to bring in a captain to be the general manager and got a person of Steve's caliber and background, we jumped at it. And I think the way we're looking at this next phase is Steve is the general manager. He's responsible for our regulatory compliance, the performance of the crew, the management, and the maintenance of the vessel. So that the asset itself, Steve is overall responsible. And then he and our new assistant general manager, Cam LaFleur, Cam will be on the commercial side, so he'll be doing things like customer satisfaction, chartering, ticketing, marketing, some of that softer, salesier side. And we hired him in, I want to say, early November, and he's been dynamite at it. He has a penchant. He's got a charisma for engaging with people. And I really truly believe that the 1-2 punch of Steve and Cam together is going to be really valuable for us and for the operation. And then we have, as you know, the irreplaceable Captain Tom, Captain Dennis. We have access once again to Captain Randy, who worked with us for a while this year, and he was reassigned with Merit to go overseas. He's come back, so we have access to Captain Randy, who is a double ender. He has a captain's license and an engineering license. So really a good utility player for us. Plus, he lives in Battleground, so he's right down the road from Vancouver, very accessible to us. And then from there, we have our bar and restaurant staff, and then our deckhands. And Steve has been spending a lot of time with our deckhands over the past couple of days, just teaching them the ropes, actually, literally the ropes, how to handle the lines, how to handle loads, how to manage a safe and compliant underway watch. And it's not that, well, let me just say, they just haven't had access to a mentor with Steve's background and willingness to teach until this week. And we're really excited about where that's going to take us.
Yeah, thank you. I'm reassured that with your maritime and boating experience, that the standards of safety are going to continue, after experiencing the winter event of last year. This is reassuring, so I appreciate that. And also we have a lot of eager people on the boat, wanting to learn more about maritime and potentially becoming a new captain someday and passing the baton on. We have a long history in town of locals becoming captains, and they're very passionate about their work here. One other thing I would suggest is, continue the community partnerships. You've done a great job with Gorgeous Beer, with your catering. We have a new restaurant next to Topic coming in, so I don't know if you've reached out to them yet about their plans, but great. And then social events. Some of the social events you did last year, where you have dockside events on the boat in the evening, has been really popular, and the community wants to see that continue. So.
Yes, sir. That is our plan. We had hoped to we call them a whiskey wheeler, where we operate as a dockside attraction. And we do events with those as well. Things like tailgate parties. We did a comedy night. We can do some trivia. One of the ideas that we've been batting around is maybe partnering with the museum for a bingo cruise. We can't do it ourselves. It has to be hosted by a nonprofit, but that would be a great opportunity for us and the museum to work together in a line end. We can get crews out to do bingo underway. I mean, I'm not a bingo person, but that just sounds like fun. And we met yesterday with the operator of the Gray Line tourist busing. And what we're trying to do is work with Gorgeous and Gray Line to build a package where they're bringing people from Portland. And right now, a lot of those buses are going through Cascade Locks to Hood River. What we want to do is we want to say, well, you can go to Hood River, but stop here first. Get on the stern wheeler. Let us take you out in the gorge. Get up to Gorgeous, have a great lunch and some beers. And then if you want to go to Hood River, well, we can shuttle buses between us. The group that goes to Hood River can come back and hit us on the way home, and the group that hits us on the way here can go up to Hood River after that. It just seems like a great opportunity, and we can offer those guests and those tourists something that they're already looking for, but they don't know it's here.
Yeah, I think I've often thought about it driving on 84, that there's a good opportunity for having like a billboard or something in the Troutdale area, because there's all sorts of billboards for like Hood River businesses. So like having one out there to remind people and show them like our beautiful stern wheeler would be pretty cool.
So we did a little bit of the background work on that. We got the answers that we needed a little bit later in the process. And so one of the things that's on Steve's pretty monumental task list is to connect with the ODOT folks that manage the billboard reservations and try to get us up on 84.
The port also always sets aside some money in our budget for advertising, and one that we haven't tapped into at a high level for a while because we didn't exactly know what product we were selling. I think we're starting to hone in on that a little bit more, and I definitely see opportunities for us to partner on some of that stuff, right? So any sort of advertising that brings economic development or tourism to Cascade Locks is a good fit for us to be a part of, and of course, owning the stern wheeler. So definitely don't be afraid about getting in front of us and asking us what our plans are for advertising next year. So
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Question on the Vancouver month, like how logistically, how is it working with the employees and everything? Are they capable of making it to Vancouver? And like, I'm just curious how it's all gonna work together. And have you already pre-booked some like Christmas parties or whatnot?
We have, so we have a few events that are already booked, and we've got a handful that we have listed for sale. Or for ticketing. One of the things I neglected to mention, I should have mentioned earlier, is at the same time that we're trying to get the boat down in Vancouver and also swapping general managers, we were completely overhauling our ticketing system. As with any business, you know what you'd like to get and you know what you can afford, and sometimes there's a delta. And we really wanted a much more responsive ticketing system than the one we had. But the one we had was the one we could afford. Well, in October, we made the decision to go with the industry leader for online ticketing, which is Fair Harbor. We spent several days working with them to make sure that they could deliver a customer experience that we expected and do it better than what we were doing already. And we became assured that they could. And throw kudos again to Caden. Caden did a lot of work focused to get us all the information that we needed and get Fair Harbor all the information needed about us so that we could seamlessly transition to Fair Harbor. And we completed that last, I think it was the 29th. So, through the Thanksgiving holiday, the team worked on this pretty hard. We got it done. And our website is now selling tickets through Fair Harbor with the additional advantage that we can do gift cards now. So we've sold probably 10 gift cards since the 29th.
that's awesome.
And marketing that as a good holiday gift for our friends and neighbors. So as part of that transition, to answer that, get back to the question, like, well, what does Vancouver look like? Well, now we have a really attractive and nimble ticketing system, and we can send links directly to an individual event or a class of events, or I can send a link to a gift card purchase. Just click on it and it gives you the opportunity to buy the gift card or the cruise or whatever it is. So because we made that investment in that transition on the ticketing system, it's made what we wanted to do in Vancouver a lot more manageable. So we met with the folks from Visit Vancouver. Super excited to have the stern wheeler down there. We made an assessment that maybe with all the cruise traffic on the Willamette, that maybe the Columbia and the Vancouver area would appreciate a little bit of love and maybe their own temporary boat for the season. I think that's going to pay off. They are going to be on board with a number of the hotels that are right along that strip in Vancouver with us tomorrow. So we'll be direct marketing to them what we can do. They're going to see it firsthand, and then they're going to help us evangelize what we can do down in Vancouver.
Do you see any potential for a long cruise going from Vancouver to Cascade Locks?
Yes. So part of our discussion with the Gray Line folks was they think that they could sell that. And we didn't sell it on the way down, but our plans are to sell a return. So we'll do that freighted rather than deadhead. We'll sell tickets, we'll pick people up in Vancouver, and we'll bring them to Cascade Locks. The other
some people might enjoy that, with the windy cruise up the river. So excited, so excited they might not get the rest of the year. No, maybe not.
Well, inside, I'll tell you, as I mentioned, I met with Jeremiah earlier today and I made the trip down to Vancouver last time when we went to the shipyard after the January event. And I don't remember it, but I do remember it this time as I'm in the wheelhouse with Captain Tom. Captain Tom's, as he does, he's just doing his narration all the way down to Vancouver. And he's telling me, pointing to all the banks and rocks that historic stern wheelers and paddle boats have fetched up on or become icebound in or run aground. I'm like, Tom, appreciate the history. It's right now. So, yeah, it just reminded me that
Don't steer towards the lead.
Yeah.
this river has a lot of history with paddle wheel boats and yeah, because we operate up and we have the benefit of the dam and the lock, takes a lot of those navigation hazards away from us, but it's still not trivial to take a boat up and down that river.
I have a operational question that I'm gonna ask that I don't know the answer to, which makes me nervous in a public meeting, because I don't do this. Can Cascade Locks residents get on the boat for free in Vancouver? It's yes or no is fine. It's either, it doesn't matter. It's an interesting question. People are going to ask me, so it would make sense that they couldn't because we're taking it out of the area.
The way when we designed that incentive,
Yeah.
we did it for the expeditions, the 1 hour expeditions out of Cascade Locks. With the intention that, if we weren't doing those, those would be.
The ones you're doing down there are more like Santa Cruz's and the bigger ones.
Correct.
That makes sense.
So those are themed.
There you
so
go.
We're doing like Sailing with Santa, and we're doing the Christmas ships watch.
Oh, very cool.
Sales. So.
Oh, like the boat parade?
Yes, ma'am.
Nice.
So we met with them a couple days ago. We sailed with the sheriff's boat and Captain Tom went with them and sort of pointed out areas that are of concern or where we can go or where we can't go. And they're really excited because we're gonna sell tickets to take people to go on basically cocktail sunset cruises and watch the Christmas ships as they're maneuvering through the Columbia River.
That's cool.
And so we'll get underway before they do. We'll watch them come out. We'll be doing Christmas carols and serving hot cocoa and Christmas cookies. And then we'll watch them go in and then we'll go back in. That's our plan.
Good hot drink bar menu.
Yeah.
Apparently.
We were working on that today.
We'll see if we can get there.
So question for you, so you're saying that we're on a 3-year ramp, we're year 3, is that correct?
So, yep, we signed the contract in July of 2023.
And then, and put you on the spot, do you have any kind of stats of like where we were or where we at currently, like say 2024, and what our projections are for the coming year? Or
Sure.
where your aspirational goals are?
So we, in 2023, which was an abbreviated year, we didn't start actual passenger operations until the 12th of August. Just because some things that we had to do with the Coast Guard and, get everything stood up. So we only had an opportunity to serve about 3,200 passengers that first season. And this past year so far, we've served over 17,000. So a pretty market increase. At the same time, we've expanded the format of the events that we do from pretty much a 1 hour expedition to 1 hour expedition, a 2 hour expedition, which could be a sunset cruise as well, a brunch cruise, a dinner cruise, or a private charter. We've added the Whiskey Wheeler, which is where we operate as the dockside bar, and we are looking for other interesting events like the loaded cruise where we go from Vancouver, or where we take the boat from Cascade Locks to Hood River. Maybe we steam up there with a group of folks that want to go to Hood River. We pull in there and maybe there's a group of 100 mountain bikers that have just biked their way up there possibly. And we load them and their bikes on the boat and bring them back to Cascade Locks. That would be a piece of cake. And I think it would sell.
As far as the Vancouver operations, how much of your staff is Cascade Locks staff?
At least a third.
Okay.
At least a third, probably
Yes,
over
I
half.
know.
And we're seasonal, so when we get into the busier season, we'll hire. And Steve, one of the many things that Steve is good at is growing a marine workforce. And we've already talked about the qualification process that Steve is planning to bring to us. And what we wanted, now that we're in year 3 and we're not in startup mode anymore, we can create that draw of entry level folks. Maybe we partner with the high school and find some rising juniors. Athletes make really good deckhands. Bring them in at the entry level. Some of them will stay with us for years. Some of them might do it for a summer. But I'm absolutely confident if we open the door and we create a pathway for them and show the opportunities of the maritime industry, many of them will stay.
That's huge. You have the opportunity to develop that here, just that little, first job on the boat. Recreation, it can go many ways, Forest Service, outdoor recreation.
Well, Owen's Irving, he's been there for a whole couple years now, hasn't he?
He has. He's been with us since the beginning that we've been here.
Yeah.
And probably, longer than that. But he's another guy, great resource for us because we need to work pretty closely with the fire department. We do a lot of the same damage control and casualty control.
And he's looking at a career and he wants to run tugs and get his engineer's license and captain's license, the whole bit. So that's great.
Yeah, he's been a treat to talk with because he is as enthused.
Passionate, yeah.
And I think he's looking forward to a better picture of the path, how to do it.
Yeah.
And that stuff's all right at our fingertips. And he's certainly set up to do it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
really great.
we can grow more people like
My
that.
first job.
And if I can take that thought a step further, since we all met in 2023, Jetty Light has experienced some commercial success as well. And we now have vessels that we operate in different parts of the country. I told Steve what I'd like to do is I'd like to grow our mariners on the stern. So if they want to stay here and work their way into the wheelhouse or work their way into the engine room, great, that's what they want. But if they want a job somewhere else in Philadelphia or in Maryland or in Florida, hopefully as we pick up more contracts, I can tell Steve, hey, I'm going to need these positions filled. Can you grow me? And because we have so much control and so many other things that they get to see here in Cascade Locks, we have a tremendous opportunity to turn into that feeder for the maritime industry, not just for Jetty Light, but in general.
Do you see eventually, maybe the Coast Guard having some training sessions out here because of your presence with the maritime program?
So my experience with the Coast Guard and having served in the Coast Guard is that the Coast Guard's always looking for good assets to partner with. They're looking for, the first thing they need is someone that they trust, that they know is mostly compliant, that they can go in there and teach those exercises the right way. Steve has a ton of experience in doing that in Pierce County and other places where he's operated. And so to answer your question, absolutely, we can grow that relationship. We have a new domestic marine inspector at Sector Columbia River that Steve will be growing that relationship. And then it's really easy once we've got that on tap to say, hey, if you have some exercises and you want to come do them in a cool place like Cascade Locks, I'll help you set up. He's set up and run so many of these exercises that we really have a great ability to do that.
So just a reminder that Jetty Light will be back at the first meeting in January, have some more of those metrics from this previous year, some of the accomplishments. We'll look at some financials. We'll get a little deeper dive into the business side of things. So we have that just around the corner and hopefully a little more to add to it while we're in Vancouver here in December.
That's what we're hoping. That was
Yeah.
part of the justification to delay the full report is we're really hoping that December is going to be a good turnout and some good revenue for us so that we can report full year. Maybe close with a couple other things that I didn't mention is we this year also implemented a program called Helm Operations. And Helm Operations is one of the industry leaders in computerized management of maintenance and tracking of machinery. So by bringing in, and again, an HMS resource, Dan Frank, Dan has helped us go from everything on paper for our paper logs and clipboards to now George is walking around with a tablet and he's logging in and the tablet's telling him, here are the management tasks or the maintenance tasks that you have coming up. Here's what's due, here's what's critical. If you have questions about how to do it, you just click on the link and it pulls up the information from the tech pub. It basically answers all the questions he has. And it's not reliant on George himself to know it. Any engineer can walk by and pick up the tablet and say, what are the tasks I have to get done today? And when they get them done, they're logged, and then I can pull them to Texas. Jeremiah can pull them up in the office. Steve can pull them from wherever he is. Hopefully, it's on the boat. And then, so now we have a much better way of making sure that all of the maintenance that's required for the boat is getting done, that it's not dependent on one person to drive that task list. And it's much easier for us to report it at whatever frequency the port would like to see. So I'm really, really excited. And the other benefit is we put most of that cost on another operation that needed it. So we were able to pull stern wheeler in for free.
Cool. Awesome.
It wasn't free for the stern wheeler, but
Sure.
no expense on the port side. So really excited about that one. Really excited about the ticketing, as I mentioned. Really excited about where we're headed with human resources and our winter operations. So I'm just really excited.
Okay.
Awesome.
Great, thank you.
We'll see you back in January.
Can't wait. Thanks so much.
Thanks for the presentation.
Safe
Look forward
travels.
to seeing
Sure.
what Vancouver does.
Well, again, I hope we can see you tomorrow. I'm flying back to Texas tomorrow morning, but Steve's got the ball and we'll be doing that dry run with our friends down in Vancouver.
Very cool.
Really excited about it.
Neat.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chip. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Good job.
Public comment. Well, there's nobody here, so if there's anybody in our online audience that would like to share, we're open to it.
Good luck.
Chris, got anything to say?
You never know. He likes to listen.
Okay, all right, hearing none, executive director report.
Just me and Genevieve tonight. Want
Oh,
to
yeah.
your part?
Sure. Well, thanks to everybody for your warm congratulations for Melissa Warren, who has officially retired her position as accounting administrator. That has taken up the bulk of the past 2 weeks for me, is trying to cram my brain full of every little nugget of information I could get out of her, and try to perform sort of an accounting bridge until we implement our new systems. Really, really encouraged by the work by Marina and Co on that front. And Jenny Poff especially has been really, really helpful the past 2 weeks. So thank you to Jenny. Also wanted to report on a couple of other things. Let's see. Wanted to let you know that as a result of the meeting that Jeremiah and I had with our partners at McKed, they have developed a scoring rubric and a scoring sheet for their staff members who will be doing the first pass review of the grant applications that we receive. Jeremiah and I both reviewed those and have approved them. They meet our needs. And so we'll be working with them over the next couple of weeks to develop the launch process to start the first call for applications for the Port's Economic Development Grant Program. Really excited about the work of Janice Crane, who is working for the City of Cascade Locks Tourism Committee to develop an application to Travel Oregon for the Recreation Ready program. Commissioner Dodd has also been really, really helpful on that project. So fingers crossed, they will be awarded that program. It will, if awarded, go a long way to do a lot of this preparatory work, including public outreach. That Chris mentioned, not just for bike tourism, but for tourism in general that will be sort of centered on a improvement to the Easy Climb Trail. I don't know, Ted, if you want to talk a little bit about what the plan is for that, but it's an enhancement to Easy Climb and a program that is basically you get a travel Oregon consultant who does a whole bunch of community input and planning work and facilitating through a 6-month program for Travel Oregon's Recreation Ready program, which I think is great. And they have a soft trails focus this year, which I think gets us some extra points of maybe, fingers crossed again. Hopefully we'll get this grant, but I don't know if you want to mention anything about that or.
Just to tag on, yeah, this grant we're applying for is a lot of support. That's the way I put it. To do community outreach, to really kind of think in the way of bringing the whole community along with us, what our objectives are, which also sets the stage for us then to apply once if awarded and everything goes away, we assume it will. It will set us up for then to apply for a grant to actually take on a pretty good sized project out at Easy Climb, which is a skill development section that will be in addition to within the footprint of Easy Climb. But it'll be a way to make the trail a little bit more usable for a larger group of people, so people can go there to develop their skills and continue on. It'll be a great stepping stone as progression for beginners, for people, for little kids that are scooting around to beginners going to intermediate level riding and perfecting their skills, and then be able to take it into the trails that we're building up on the Forest Service land. So it's nice to have the progression. It brings the whole family along and all generations.
Yeah.
So this is the
Great.
first step, and Janice is doing a great job in helping to lead the team in the tourism committee side of it.
Yeah, she's doing a great job. Also on the mountain biking vein and the grant topic as well. Just wanted to little bit of clarification on Chris's application. What he had a slide there that showed the project budget that came out of our original RTP grant application, as all of you know, but I want to make sure that the public knows. The bids for that project came in over budget. So the project was completed under its final budget, but not that budget that was on the slide. So I just want to make sure I noted that for the record, and let you know that we also submitted close to our second to final progress report to the other Oregon Parks and Recreation District grant that we have received. This one through the local government grant program, which funded the lion's share of the Harvey Road restroom project. We submitted a final progress report and reimbursement request. We will have another one in January. We did have some costs in the utility hookup and some of the permitting for the electrical, sewer, and water hookup for that. So we'll be getting, again, 80% of those costs reimbursed to us through that process. And thank you to Commissioner Clute and Commissioner Dodd for attending the Oregon Outdoor Recreation Summit, which I believe is this week, correct? So lots on the outdoor recreation side of things. And that's it for me, I think. Do you want to cover Parker's or?
Do you want to touch base on our conversation with Charles and
Yeah.
Red Cross and that
Yeah.
program?
Yeah.
I know that'll interest Commissioner.
Yeah, so this is an update to the warming shelter project. As all of you know, we have access to a large generator, and the Port Commission directed staff to fund the installation of the transfer switch that is required to connect that generator to the Cascade Locks Elementary School. And Parker has been lining that up and getting it done. We believe it'll be done by the end of December. Next, what comes next is, okay, what happens if we need the warming shelter? And so, the port, rightly so, is sort of stepping a little bit outside of its role as a port in this project. Certainly, climate change, resiliency, emergency preparedness is really important for economic development and community resiliency and just, the common good. But the port is really not the appropriate entity to run a warming shelter during an emergency. And so Charles Young, who is the emergency manager for the county, met with us last week to work on, okay, how are we going to create this document for who is the appropriate team to run the shelter when the power goes out and we're activating the shelter. So Parker or another Port of Cascade Locks facilities crew member will be involved in flipping that switch, but you won't see port staff, admitting folks and registering folks. That's not our role. Charles felt really strongly that the Red Cross should be the lead entity for that, and kind of led us through all of the templates and assets that they already have in place, including specific recruitment of a local team that can be involved in one of two levels. You can pull from Red Cross volunteers throughout the region to Cascade Locks in the case of an emergency to run a warming shelter that are already trained in how they do that. Or we could establish a local, not so much regional, but a local team that signs up to be a volunteer for the Red Cross, but only for those emergencies and needs that are Cascade Lock specific. And so Charles is going to take the reins on that process, and he is gathering those materials together, and it's really, we need to issue a call for volunteers.
Yeah, we really do need to issue a call for volunteers.
We need a minimum of 3 people, I
I've already
think.
mentioned to folks already that I will do that, and
Great.
I know Michaela Keller also.
Awesome.
did as
Awesome.
Great.
There's also, I did some work for disaster action teams for Red Cross a couple years ago.
Nice.
This is region 2, the headquarters is in Bend.
Okay.
A lot of the volunteers I saw in the gorge live out either in Hood River or the Dalles, so it's essential. And I know there's passionate people who live here in town who totally want to help. So like it's essential to have some people on site here because the freeways will be closed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important for basically locals as well, at least some
Yeah.
sort of local support.
Yeah.
Because like we experienced in January, those are shut down.
It'd be wonderful to get some real diversity within that group, just so that we have that we're touching as many parts of this community as we possibly can, because
Right.
we certainly all know some folks that are in need or are going to struggle in those sorts of things, but we can't know everybody, right? And so the more people that we can sort of bring in that necessarily aren't our own neighbors or aren't folks that we spend time with, the more that we can kind of reach out. And that was something that came from Charles, is you really have to kind of find this group of people that have tentacles going every which direction. So I think that's going to be awesome too.
It was, really interesting conversation with Charles, and, it'd be great to find a volunteer who's bilingual, find a volunteer who is experienced with elder care and those sorts of, certainly not required experience or expertise, but something that could be helpful if anybody piques anybody's interest that way.
It sounds like it doesn't have to be minimum 3, right?
No, and you guys really are there'll be leadership, but you guys really are the team that's like, we're opening it. And we're opening it, and now we hit the notification, and now we go through the tree, and like this really is the team that says, this call goes out, and Parker down at the port goes and unlocks it, and now Hood River County Emergency starts to establish, and it really felt like it was going to go something to the fire department, at least in my own head. And the more we sat down with Charles, the more like, if there's an emergency, they're going to be busy.
Yeah,
They're
They're going to be responding to emergencies.
Yeah, sure.
So that was all on that.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure we talked about it. It was good. It was good conversation, good meeting.
Also across the state, there's tons of volunteers with the search and rescue teams, and there's also the search and rescue team in Clackamas County on Hood River side. That might be willing to be an on-call disaster action team.
Cool.
With Melissa out officially, it has been a lot of discussion with Marina and Co. about our chart of accounts and accounting going forward, what this is going to look like, automating as much of her position as we can. I certainly have a tremendous more amount of folks on the operational side than I do on the administrative side. So you've certainly seen all of them wear a lot of hats this week. Genevieve, maybe every single hat. Carrie Ann's wearing a few different hats. We've got Parker out. I'm back at the bridge. We've got Joanna out as well. You're going to see that for a little bit as we transition during this period with Melissa leaving. It's the right time for it. We slow down a little bit this time of the year. There's some holiday breaks. There's a little time for us to get our feet under us and see, okay, how do we evolve from here and what changes can we make? So you might see some of those roles change just a little bit. Nothing necessarily dramatic, but things where you're like, oh, all right, well, now they've delivered that report or those types of things. And we'll play with that a little bit to see how we can get the very best out of the small administrative team that we have, and see if there's additional folks that we need to be on or whether or not we can sort of make it with the group that we've had and excel with the group that we have.
We're trying to, increase redundancy as much as we can so
Right.
that we can cover each other and operate as sort of more of a smaller, more nimble team. If everybody knows how to do the same job and it's not just one person's job, but it's a port function that we can all do. It's something we're really shooting for. So.
And that's something that we've been, I mean, I certainly have played a role in that, but also have benefited that for myself, right? To be hired as a port employee that's had an opportunity to move through different functions within the port, right? And to grow our own port employees. That's really another reason to continue to do that. Carrie Ann has held a number of positions.
Carrie Ann's one who can
understands
do
a number of
everything.
different things that happen within the port. Parker came from our maintenance department. So to grow those folks internally, just sort of get you that benefit of like, oh, you know how to do that as well. You know how to do that as well. So we'll continue to hope to grow people internally within the port and find positions for them. So it certainly has been beneficial. But again, thank you to both you two, because this was your port down with the administrative side for most of this week and last. Maintenance guys definitely out there finishing up the winterization of the park. Saw them blowing leaves today, and I was like, "We're blowing leaves in the wind? What are we doing here, fellas?" We also expect to have the bridge sign welded up by the end of the year. So the replacement bridge sign will go up there. It was something we were going to handle in-house. And the more we thought about it, the more it was like, you know what, let's bring Bulldog Welding out here. Let's get some professional welders on this. It's going to hang on a bridge. There's going to be vibrations. So that pushed it out a little bit longer. If there are any other projects you want me to touch on, I will. But
One thing I noticed,
Yeah.
on the Washington side, especially as we're getting into the winter months, it's extremely dark on the Washington side. Like, you don't even see the push of the gun sign up there. Is there, like a timeline when something temporary might be there for some lighting or?
I don't necessarily have that on my radar. I know it's dark down there. I mean, I could definitely start bringing it up at RTC on the Washington side and see. I mean, they generally know that intersection right there is a nightmare and something's going to have to be done.
It's also relying on the 14 too, because they have
Right.
this one lamp post that's right by the intersection, but it happens to be off most of the time when I'm driving through.
Well, then that I can, if there's a light post that exists that's out, that I can get movement on. Yes. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Let's see. So Parker.
I mean, yeah, no,
Yeah,
there's specific. I want to read through all these,
Yeah.
trying to keep moving, but there's
Any
specific one they want
updates
to.
on Flex 5 and 6?
Flex 5, I have the last contract version back with Tommy that we will do to extend the lease with Freem on the cold storage you guys purchased. So it'll get to them one more time to sign off it, then back to this commission to sign off on that. Flex 6 meets with the city. I want to say the 6th, excuse me, Freem meets with the city on Flex 6 to discuss wastewater capacity, which is going to play a huge part in whether or not that is going to work out for us. Jordan assures me that system was way overbuilt, and he thinks that it will. That'll be a huge uptick for both the city from a water and electric standpoint. So Jordan's excited about it. Bream's excited about it. The port's excited about it.
And they meet when?
The 16th.
16th,
of
okay.
December, I believe is what he said. He just told me today. It's like, hey, meeting with Freeman. I was like, right.
Any
I'm not even
other-
sure it's supposed to be saying Freeman. In public. Did it a bunch of times. I think it's a
Nobody
bit
watched
of
it.
I think it's a bit of a known interest that they're looking at that building, whether or not it's something they move into and move forward with. I think there's still a lot of checks and balances that have to happen, but they continue to look at it for future opportunities, maybe for storage.
And then any updates on when Ixtapa may ever open?
2 to 3 weeks. Hey, 2 to 3 weeks. I don't have an update on that. I don't see a huge push on their side with the type of weather that we've got, with the cold that we've got. I have been down up there. I do see that they've made progress. I know that the planning commission approved their sign at the last meeting, so the X-Top sign will go up. Parker is the one that's been, and Parker and Alfonso, because Alfonso speaks Spanish, has been getting the most recent updates on that. And I don't have an update since last week, or the last meeting that we had.
It'll be nice to have a place to go to in
It
the
would be
winter
nice
too.
to have a place to go to in the winter too.
I assume they'll be updating the monument sign up on the main road.
Yeah, they did sort of a mocked up online one. It won't be lit up, it won't be, but it'll be updated for sure. I saw, and I don't have information on this project, although I know it made your list. I saw that they were taking down the signs by the museum, the ones that you were.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I drove by there. I was like, what are we doing, guys? And he's like, oh no, Parker said they're taking down. So I wasn't looped in on that plan, but I did see that they were coming down. So
Some old signs.
We'll see what
stuff on
happens
the
next.
Misspelled signs.
the misspelled sign, pavilion spelled incorrectly.
That's just old.
You can spell pavilion like that?
Yeah. you
Oh,
can spell
there you
it.
go.
Yes.
Good to know.
Commissioner comments, subcommittee reports. We'll start with the birthday girl first.
All right, I don't have any subcommittee reports, we don't have another meeting until the 19th, I don't think, so, that's for the Bridge of the Gods Centennial. And then I'm going to the summit for the outdoor recreation, it's Thursday through Saturday this week. Looking forward to learning as much as possible about Oregon outdoor recreation and bringing back that knowledge.
Thank you.
Where is that?
Sun River.
It's fun.
Can't complain.
Awesome. Birthday wishes?
I want to say thank you to the presenters that came in today, Chris Bernard and Jim, as well as Steve. I'll keep it short because I know the birthday girl wants to go hang out. So, happy birthday. Yeah. And also, happy birthday to my mom too. So
Happy birthday, Mom.
you're not my mom, but
Same birthday, no.
Yeah, a big thank you again to Chris's presentation. That was really impressive, and it's really exciting to see a new emerging industry in Cascade Locks and how it'll impact the downtown and create more jobs in tourism. And then all the volunteer work from Northwest Trail Alliance and your leadership over there. It's just nothing but, thanks for all that. So appreciate it. As far as events for the holiday, I think there's a school PTO holiday marketplace this Saturday from 10 to 4. And I heard Santa's showing up, so I don't know if he's playing Santa, but
Santa is.
yeah.
It's funny, Santa.
Yeah.
How many 6-year-olds were watching?
But that and a few other events with, I think, other nonprofits in town. So keep an eye out for that. And
Awesome. Yeah, thank you to our guest speakers that came in. It was very educational today for myself. The one thing I really latched onto too is the question regarding seasonality. And while I was thinking we had a pretty good season, with him saying 12 months, 10 months, 8 months, and depending on the type of riding group, that was pretty impressive when we think about one of the focuses that we've had as a city, as a council here, as for the port and community in general, is when we think about bringing in jobs. Everyone's been a fan of tourism, but we're always, it's really seasonal.
Yeah.
Well, mountain biking is a lot, it doesn't close down when the weather starts getting crummy, so that's really impressive to think about.
No bad days, just inappropriate clothing.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
we live in a land with a lot of clothing manufacturers that keep us well equipped, so
Yeah.
I think we're good to go.
Yeah.
And then, of course, appreciate the staff that's just been doing an amazing job. It's since when I look at the list and see how much stuff we just like check, all these different tasks and all these different objectives we're going after. It's commend you for some amazing work. And I look forward to going with Commissioner Clute over to represent Cascade Locks at this pretty big event. It's really impressive when I was looking at the roster of different attendees. We'll be rubbing shoulders with some pretty amazing people doing amazing
Some
work.
really good networking.
She'll come back with sketches of
Yeah.
the port property.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
And you guys
Let's get a
both have your
master
business
plan.
cards, right? For the, yeah, great.
Carrie Ann sent me a full box. so I'll probably
Nice.
come back with that.
Bring a bunch of business cards. Yeah, that's awesome.
Come back with other people. So, yeah, that's all.
Well, I'll echo what everybody else said. Once again, you guys all said it.
Are we doing an energy council thing or not?
Yeah, you have a couple more things still on your agenda. We've started moving these roundtables up slightly in the agenda just to see how it affects the flow of the meeting, so.
So, yeah, you all said it. I had a neat, little, meeting on Monday, with the, welder, or the,
Oh, right.
iron workers union, in Portland. And it was neat to see their apprenticeship program, and they're actually, what do you say, 200 iron workers in the gorge area?
Yeah,
Out of
yeah.
the 1,200 or so that they have in
Their
a
region.
really interesting program, and really made me feel very humble when I ran a few welds. I think it was better than they expected, but much worse than I did. You know, their welder was, kind of intimidating because it's, completely different than my stuff, but anyway, great visit. Also had a nice visit with Ted Dodd here the last couple of weeks, and I continue to be amazed of the caliber of commissioners we have. I mean, I had really great discussions with Ted about, his ideas about the port and what he sees as things that we can develop, and it very much echoes what all of you also have shared as far as what we think is the direction of the port and what our strategic business plan reflects. And I see a lot of potential for putting our ideas together and getting a great forward-thinking business plan for future jobs and recreation, and how we can grow this community and build the infrastructure and resources around it. And I think it's going to be a great future.
Cool.
That's all I have. All right, next.
Action item. And I think we can probably, based on the conversations I've had with the commission, I think we might be able to zip this through this pretty quick and have you guys maybe take this out to the community and see if there's any interest in it. So Pam Tweet, previous commissioner, held the position on the Hood River Energy Council. It is a monthly commitment. I thought it was quarterly. There's one quarterly meeting and then two monthly meetings as well to support the subcommittee that you're with. Generally, the Hood River Energy Council is the one that's in charge of implementing the goals of the Hood River County Energy Plan. Typically, that's going to be entities like ports and cities, and right. And so when those projects come on board, we're able to tap into those resources to get grants and to get fundings and to push projects that do fit within that. Each commissioner I spoke to was like, I'm a little tapped out. And so it is possible, and previously.
Great idea.
Yeah.
If somebody who's really techy and really great, and he's on the screen right now.
So it's probably not critical that we select one at this meeting, although you could appoint, go ahead.
I actually have Bradley over, so I actually am in the role if anybody else.
Oh, great.
Oh, okay.
There is a motion on the last page to appoint if someone would like to do that.
Would you like to entertain that motion? I'll do what I do, which.
I will again hand you that agenda.
I can make a motion to appoint Rob Peterson as the new Port of Cascade Locks representative for the Hood River County Energy Council.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from second to appoint Rob Peterson, the Energy Council. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
I,
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks,
for your
Rob.
service.
Cool. You'll see some emails coming from me. We'll connect you in the administrator, get you the calendar, and we'll start moving forward on that. Awesome. And then we have one more in an executive session.
Yes. Port of Cascade Locks will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602F which allows the commission to meet in executive session to consider information or records that are exempt by law
Lindsay.
from
Thank you.
public inspection. Representative of the
Think-
media or designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report or otherwise disclose any of the
That's so cute.
deliberations or anything said of these subjects during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room. Okay, we will take a very short recess and allow Chris to leave. Welcome back, and it was good to see you all. Have a happy couple weeks. We'll see you on the ninth. No,
Like
17th.
17th, yeah.
Or maybe on the 6th when we light up the lights down at the bridge.
All right, sounds good. Thank you all for attending. Adjourn.
Thank you.
Okay.
We need to advertise that.
I moved.
Advertise.